war. Heroes, power, help, war. A person chosen by the god, they have these gem thing encrusted in their body. She has one in her feet maybe. Oh, controller is dead. Hello guys, my name is Jess and welcome to the start of a new video. In this video I'm going to be covering my best book of 2024. I didn't have that many books to pick from as I've only read about 40 books in 2024, became a first-time mom, was really busy. So I pick amongst those almost 40 books, we must say that, and not 34. Yeah, in those books I picked 10 that I really liked. None of them were big hits, but they were still pretty good. I mean, also my mood this year was up and down as far as reading goes. We have a bunch of different genre. I'm usually a fantasy reader, but I went with some thrillers and other kind of books. So we're just gonna mix it all in there. And the first one, read for the first time a Freda McFadden book, and I just happened to be the co-worker. So that book took me by surprise. I don't read a lot of thriller, mystery, suspense books. So it fell edge of your seat, kept on turning the page, wanted to know more. So in this book, we're following Natalie. Natalie is like the pimp of her workplace, okay? She talks to everyone, she sets up all the events, her boss love her, she's like in marketing business, she has great sales. Anyway, she's a little bit full of herself, and she's our main character, and somehow she's very fun to read from. I don't know how, but yeah. We're following her when she discovered that her co-worker, Dawn, goes missing, and she works in a little cubicle, I'm not sure about the term, but like you work here, the person's here, and you're just like, hey. So you know from the get-go that Dawn is an outcast. She's weird. She likes turtle, and we know more about her that side. I mean, she really likes turtle, and she picked on. We find out probably by mainly Natalie picks on her. So, and Natalie's kind of noisy. She is really wondering why Dawn isn't at work, and she gets right at the beginning of the book a weird phone call that seems to be from Dawn, and she cannot get it out of her head. So the whole book we're following Natalie as she's trying to figure out what happened to Dawn. There's a little clue there that reveals that maybe something violent happened to her, so Natalie is more so like pulled in, but at the same time it's looking back on her work that her co-worker is potentially dead. A lot of people are looking at Natalie because she apparently was a bully. So we're just trying to untangle all that. I wasn't that shocked, but it was still very good. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Maybe I should read more suspense thriller because every time I pick one of those books, I read it in a day or two, and that's really fast for me. My second top book of 2024, I read The Well of Ascension, which is book 2 in the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I absolutely loved the first book. It was a favorite of another year. Absolutely loved the second one. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I thought the second book in the Mistborn trilogy was much better than the first one. The first one, as some people may be aware, we're following Vin, who is an orphan. She's part of this society where some High Lord created a division between 2 classes. So there's the Ska, and I'm not sure I remember the name of the normal people or whatnot, but I think it's just the nobles and the Ska. So Vin is a Ska. She's looked upon as like trash almost, and seems to have some kind of magical ability tied to luck, but we're not sure what it is. But the first book follows her as she meets a rebel group who helps her get more familiar with her power, and she learned that she is a Mistborn. That's pretty early on, and she can ingest metal and transform to different kind of power, push and pull on things. Like I could pull like this camera to me. So yeah, so she has powers like that. She's pretty strong, and the first book just followed her pretending to be a noble, kind of like undercover type thing, taking over the High Lord. And the second book was, wow, without revealing too much as it is the second book in a series, coming so much more into her own. She is the driving force of book 2, whereas in book 1 she felt like almost like a supporting character that just happened to be there. The second book is very much so about Vin and her coming to terms with her power, her place in society, and what she wants to accomplish, what she will stand for or not. And there's a new character that's introduced in book 2, who was my absolute favorite character so far in this trilogy. So yeah, I loved it. And then for my third book that I really like in 2024, I guess I was kind of on a Brandon Sanderson kick because it's Word of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, book 2 and another series. The series is called, I believe it's Storyline Archive. A book I read in July, so a little bit later than Book in the Mistborn trilogy, but I decided to pick the big chunker, 1000-ish pages. Maybe that's why I didn't manage to hit my 40 books goal. Boy, was that a ride. I felt like book 2 was much better than book 1. Book 1 was really good. Like, it really set up the world, really get pulled into the world, but you also get really attached to the character. But in book 2, I just felt like it just literally took all the setup that we had and made something really concrete with it, where we learned a lot more about world, the races, the past. I don't want to be too descriptive because this is book 2, but basically we're following Kaladin and Shallan mostly. I would say book 2, some people say Shallan's book, and maybe that's why I liked it so much. In book 1, Shallan is, Shallan, I'm not sure. She's a scholar learning about the magic of the world, but she knows she has some kind of magic of her own, but she's not sure what it is. Whereas in book 2, she's much more familiar with her power. She went through book 1, and I don't want to reveal too much, but it focuses a lot on her growth and how she meets other characters, mainly Kaladin, who was the main star, I would say, of book 1. We're still going with the whole theme, which is a war between some kind of weird, unknown, I almost want to say alien race and humans after the alien race killed their king, and then it just started this war. Seems to have lasted for so many years on some kind of crater with holes, and there's no resolution to it in sight. And there's these people with weird armor and blades that seems to give them power even though they have no magic of their own. But despite that, there seems to be character who we are following that do have magic of their own without needing the armor and swords. And why that is, we don't know. It's probably the funniest summary I've heard of Storyline Archive. But yeah, alien race, creator with holes, alien, human, happy, alien with claw, kill human king, war. Heroes, power, help, war. Yeah. Why am I including that in the video? Anyway, so I gave it 5 stars. I was reading that book. I felt like I was literally reading a live movie. It was so immersive, so descriptive, but in the best of ways. I was eating my popcorn. I was just like, what movie? Why do we need movies like in life? So that's how good it felt to me reading that book. Yes. And after that, I read The Girl of Fire and Thorn by Ray Carson, which is book 1 in a trilogy. I was pleasantly surprised by that book, that we're following a main character who has a huge body image issue, which is not something you read about often, at least in fantasy. And she likes to eat, and it screams bulimia. She basically eats her emotion. There's a lot of emotion. She's getting married off right at the beginning of book 1 because she's supposed to be chosen by the god for some kind of quest. We have no idea what that quest is, but apparently when there's a person chosen by the god, they have these gem thing encrusted in their body. She has one in her I call it a navel in the book, but belly button. Literally a gem there, and she often say how hard it is when she touch it. So that book is a bit weird, but it's written in a way that feels very real for a fantasy book, and the writing flows and the world is immersive. And you just feel for the main character. She just in book 1, she became a whole different person by the end. I'm pleasantly surprised. 4 out of 5 for that one. And then, for no other reason than because I wanted to go into audiobook, I listened to I'm Glad My Mom Died by Janet McCurdy. And I was very surprised. Really like listening to it. I mean, I'm not a big audiobook fan. I try to go on walks and almost force myself to listen to one because I do like reading, and it was so good. I gave that 5 stars. It's weird to rate apparently a non-fiction, but to me, if I'm really pulled in, and that's a 5 star. So that one is following Janet McCurdy, who is a child star from Disney, and her childhood as a child teen stars, and how she struggled with body image and bearing family, more so mother. As you could probably tell by the title, she's glad her mom died, so that's like the punchline, but it starts with her being very young, and I feel like it's one particular event that made for me the book be so good. It's more so like all the little things that happen, and it's told in a way that really feels like you don't feel like there's down moments. I don't know, it just flows well, and it was really interesting. And I also realized while listening to that, although it was really good, that it makes me uncomfortable sometimes to read about other people's life, because it reminds me of issues in my own life, whereas with fantasy you can escape more. So I'm not sure why I'm sharing that on this video, but I'm extremely surprised that one nonfiction made it on my best book of 2024, but here we are. And then I picked up The Thief by Megan Whaling Turner, which is the first book in a multiple book series, but I heard that the second book had a really good romance. So even though the first one didn't, I was like, why not read 200 and so page, see if I like the world, and maybe continue on with the series. So I read the first one. I thought it was really good. We're following, what's his name? Oh, we're following, I guess Jan. It's a J, so Jan. We're following Jan. And at the beginning of the book, Jan is in jail, and he's apparently a thief who did something bad. Like, he stole something that he shouldn't have, and he bragged about it. So now he's in jail, and he thinks the end of his life, and it sucks. But then enters the Magnus of the land, of the realm, of that kingdom or whatever, and he's more so a scholar than a magical person, but he's Scholar Magnus. And he tells Jen that he needs his help, and Jen has no option, and he needs to go with the Magnus to help him get some kind of relic for the king to basically solidify the kingdom's power over another kingdom that is in that world. So that's very vague, but I mean, it's a short book, a lot happened, there's big plot twists. I don't feel like I can say much more than that, but the banter between the characters, the Magnus, the little apprentice, Jen has a big mouth on him, okay? He's witty, he's amazing. He's a prisoner, and you don't feel like he's a prisoner. He's literally has no fear. And he's pretty funny too. And he seems to be skilled with the swords and his mouth. Yeah. It was really, really entertaining. There's a couple of scenes where they're like around the fire and they're just traveling, and I just laugh. I'm just reading the scene, I'm just like, oh my god, like this is so funny. I'm having a good time. Yeah. So I gave that 4 stars. I bumped it down 1 because the plot twist, my brain, I just felt like I had to reassemble my thoughts and reread the plot twist to be like, oh, okay. So that's why it lost 1 star. I'm sick, I'm back. Coffee, maybe. Okay, what next? The list? Phone. No brain. No, I'm kidding, I have a brain. I also read The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Why am I starting so many series, you might ask? I have no idea. It's just a thing I do. And we're following Fitz, who is an orphan. He's an orphan, the bastard child of a royal. He's a bastard, he's pretty much cast out, but then the mother's family of Fitz decides that they've had enough. So they just bring Fitz back to like the quartermaster or the servant of the said prince, and they're just like, take this child, do what you will, like I'm done. All that aside, Fitz is growing up as a bastard's child, raised practically by a quartermaster slash servant of his father, and he sleeps in the kernel. He's just really young at the start of the book, and he sees the bright side in everything. He's just happy to be living, really. And he loves animal, and he has some kind of power tied to that. I'm not gonna say much more than that. But if you like a book that starts a trilogy, series, whatnot, that starts with a character very young, and you just follow his growth like very slowly. Because I think by the end of book 1, after like 600 pages or something, it's like 14, 15, not sure. But if you like a slow character growth, like age-wise as well, that series really is it. There's a lot happening still, although at the beginning there isn't much, but then a lot happens near the end. But somehow it feels like a lot happened, even though not a lot happens. I don't know how the author manages to do that, but it feels very immersive a lot. But that's why these books are my favorite books. It feels like you are part of this world. Like I was really wondering what Fitz was gonna eat for breakfast, where he was gonna sleep, and who were his friends. Like those were 3/4 of the book, like the big deals. But somehow it was still interesting because there's a lot of intricacies to the dynamic and his life and how it can change. And there's a lot of unanswered question about who's the bad guy in this world. And the magic is very subdued, I can almost say. Like, you know it's there, but you don't really know how it works or what purpose it serves. You just want to keep reading because you're just like, something's gonna give. Like, we're gonna know more, right? And we do get a little bit, but it's tiny little trickle. But that's all fine because it pulls you in more. So I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. So another book I really liked this year was Scarlet by Marissa Mayer. That's a book in a series called The Lunar Chronicle. It's book 2, it's multiple book series. Scarlet, we're following Scarlet, and it's a little bit like a reimagining, you know what? A retelling. So Scarlet is a retelling of the Red Riding Hood tale with the wolf and the grandma and all of that. The wolf is the bad guy. So that's a retelling of that. Scarlet is the Red Riding Hood. Is that how you say it? Look on the internet. The Little Red Riding Hood retelling. Could that be more precise? Probably not. And it's a little bit of a sci-fi setting in the whole of the Lunar Chronicle thing. And we're following Scarlet, but I also got the other character from book 1, mainly Cinder, making pretty noticeable appearance in book 2. She even has her own chapter sometimes, and it just made the world so much bigger, and it connected Scarlet and Cinder's story really nicely as far as I'm concerned. I think that's extremely interesting to go into book 3 knowing that there will be a new character, but there will be also Scarlet and Cinder. But in book 2, without saying too much, Scarlet basically is just living on a farm with her grandma. Her grandma goes missing, typical Little Red Riding Hood story. And she gets help from a weird boy who calls himself Wolf. And it's all, once again, like book 1, a little bit with the whole lunar people who seems to be different than human, potentially evil. But anyway, can't really say much more. But we're following Scarlet and Wolf. And there's a lot of ups and downs in their journey. You're kind of not sure who Wolf is, and that's kind of like the driving point for me. That's why I really liked it. But mainly I was really into the Cinder interaction tied into the whole thing, and I thought it was really well crafted as far as novel goes. So I gave that 4 out of 5. So finally, the last book I really liked in 2024. I put it last because I've just read it in December, and this might be an unpopular opinion once again, but it is Guild. And I started Glint and the Gilded Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. Now I see a lot, and I mean a lot of critique of book 1, the Played Prisoner Guild. And I went into that book scared. Like I was really scared, so we were scared. And right away, first chapter, I was like, wow, how descriptive are these scenes? Women's, like you're not a woman, okay, you're a saddle. And I'm not, like, does it need to be explained why they're called saddle? I don't think so. But yeah, so I was just like, ooh, that's kind of heavy. That's kind of not cool. That's the world, I guess. Main character is a saddle, woohoo! And the first scene is basically extremely explicit about bodily connection. And I was just shocked a bit. But then it just changes a lot into Oren's journey. Oren is basically living in a gilded cage or a prison of sorts, even though it's not like a prison as you might think, like I'm not in prison. Like it's basically like corridor and rooms that only her can travel in because they're like branched out from other places, but there's these bars where people can see her walk in her rooms. And she lives in a kingdom, where King Midas, I'm not sure, reigns. He apparently can touch things and they become gold. That's the whole premise, retelling, I suppose, of King Midas' myth. And apparently he touched Oren with his little fingers, and he turned her into some kind of gilded person. So she's not a statue, she's not metallic, she can move, but she looks almost like she has golden paint all over her. So that was an interesting thing to visualize. Like, how is that an attractive trait. But anyway, she's gold. She's yellow, okay? Yellow with a shine, we like to call it, I think. Not in the book, like I like to call it that. But she, interesting to follow. She is witty. She thinks she's not, but she snaps easily. Kind of funny a little bit. But we're following her journey as she basically is under Midas's thumb. I thought there would be a lot more abuse and violence in this book, as people sometimes have said. I mean, I can see it near the end. Definitely there's a scene I was just like, not liking my time, it was hard to read. But I mean, 3/4 of it was just basically her learning that her cage sucks, or discovering that maybe she doesn't want to be in a cage. And Midas is, not saying that she realizes that in book 1, but you just see Midas as like this political king, just like moves people around according to how he can gain more power, but he's not per se violent, like physically violent, so it was okay. We do get a little flashback of Oren and Midas, how they met and all of that, and I thought that was really interesting. It does feel like a foundation book, but I was pulled in. Almost halfway through the book, I feel like the world building gets better and less surface level, so I was pleasantly surprised. That's why this book is on this list. And near the end, there's a couple things revealed, and there's a twist, pretty big plot twist near the end, and I wanted to read book 2 right away, which I've just started. So that book is a 5 out of 5 for me, unpopular opinion, I'm certain. But I mean, aside from that one scene and the fact that women are saddled, I don't see why we're so traumatized by the violence in the book. I feel like there's some dark fantasy romance like BDSM that are much darker than that. So anyway, that's my opinion. So that's it for my top 10 book of 2024. It was a meh year for me, as none of them were like a big hit, outside maybe from Guild, but that's probably because I've just read it. And yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and that's it for me. Bye bye. I'll just turn this off. Oh, controller's dead.